First of all, Patrick, congratulations on your long career here at Clark County and your upcoming retirement. And also, you won the Judith Wensler Award for Excellence in Humanities, only given out every couple years by the Nevada Humanities. It's a nice, I know you're not big on awards, but obviously they're recognizing your contributions.
I really appreciated it. They actually gave me a wonderful piece of art by an artist I was previously unfamiliar with. And it was, I got to go up to Carson City. It was fun.
Patrick, we're here at the Winchester Cultural Center. I call it the finest cultural center in all of Clark County. You've spent the bulk of your 2-decade career in Parks and Recreation right here in these four walls. What does this place mean to you?
It is a cultural center, and we tried to use it to pull the neighborhood together in many different ways. This is a neighborhood that's become increasingly Hispanic during the time that I worked here. Our biggest event is the Day of the Dead Festival, and it was actually the first event celebrating the Day of the Dead in southern Nevada, and it's caught on, as you know. So that means a lot to the Hispanic community, but I think it means an awful lot to the non-Hispanic community. It certainly does to me. Before we started doing it, I didn't know anything about the tradition, and it's a great tradition with a lot of detail, and I like it a lot. We've worked hard to pull all kinds of people together, different ethnic groups. One thing we do is, we years and years ago started a world music series and realized that we could do an excellent world music series just using people who live in this valley, who represent the best of world music traditions. Somebody like Tumani Koyate is one of the very finest kora players in the world. The kora is known as the African harp. He's from Senegal. Besides individually bringing in various kinds of bands from different ethnic traditions, and I mean, we've had Tuvan throat singers here. We've had anybody from any part of the world you can possibly imagine. We're a cultural center that celebrates all kinds of different cultures, but also tries to bring them together and make people from one culture conscious of what's going on in other cultures.
You've been given also, that's a lot of professional people or people who've come here to spectate, but also young talent. I know over the years here we've covered many different performances, classes, workshops in sports and music and performance. Great people have come in here to teach our youth. That must be very fulfilling for you as well.
It certainly is. We have quite an elaborate dance program that pretty much grew up from the roots, and then finally the students said, we'd like to perform, and they've actually formed a dance group called the Star Catchers, which has performed all over this valley and has actually gone more than once to perform at Disneyland. So they fill our theater when they perform. And we have a theatrical group called the Headliners, which is made up of students from our theater classes. And I actually can't believe the quality of the performances that they put on. The stage sets are really breathtaking. They've used some local artists to work on those, and when the curtain goes up, you're kind of amazed. It's such a professional scene, and these students pick up acting very, very quickly. So yes, we've done lots and lots of things like that. As a matter of fact, we're often accused of doing too much.
Let's talk a little bit about the public arts, Patrick. I know you've helped shepherd one of probably the most popular utility box painting program called ZAP. I believe your wife actually helped name that, but something like that's been going on for more than 10 years. It's now being copied by our friends in the city of Las Vegas. But, beautifying ugly utility boxes from Laughlin to Lone Mountain, that's given artists a great opportunity, and public art giving people some things to talk about.
Yes, we started ZAP in 2005, and the first really big public art project that we did before we had any, we now have a public art fund. We didn't have that, but we wrote a grant And we started the Flamingo Arroyo trail project, where we brought in 3 artists to design the furniture of the trail, that is to say, the shade shelters, benches. When we went before the county commission and asked to create the art fund, which funds what we do now, commissioners asked about what we had already done and about the fact that for the Flamingo Arroyo Trail project, we did not use local artists. It was pretty easy to explain. We actually were in a situation at that time where we couldn't. But when we made that decision, I felt terrible about it and resolved at that point to create projects that would be smaller projects that would enable local artists to show what they could do and work their way up to doing some of the bigger projects. And now you can see that happening. Wayne Littlejohn has completed the 26-foot tall Dream Machine sculpture out near the airport in Siegfried and Roy Park. And as a matter of fact, well, his career is really beginning to move now because of that. And you know, we started with Miguel Rodriguez years ago, had him create 3 giant animals out at Wetlands Park. And then we've had so many great artists working on painting Zap boxes. And we insisted from the beginning on paying artists to do this kind of work, because if you want to see good art around your community, obviously you have to have artists. And the only way you're going to have a community of artists is if there's work for them, paid work that they can live off. So we're seeing an impressive core of local artists really gaining a lot of experience in public art. And you know, you look around the valley now and you can see it.
And obviously the commitment, the county's commitment, Winchester's commitment is unparalleled to local artists at the gallery here and at the Clark County Government Rotunda Gallery, where many of those artists that you just mentioned and others, some of the finest artists in Southern Nevada, have been displaying for a decade or more.
The Rotunda Gallery has several times been voted the best sculpture gallery in the valley. We actually can't hang 2-dimensional work there because the walls are made out of sandstone. But, you know, we've seen so many wonderful shows there. One was the huge Corten steel hand that was made by Luis Varela Rico. He has done I think he's still working on a major project for the city of Las Vegas now, and he's one of the artists in the Centered project for us.
People, they come from the outside and they say Las Vegas has no culture. For goodness sakes, we now have a poet laureate program going into our 2nd poet laureate, Vogue Robinson, taking over for Bruce Isaacson. We've come a long way.
We have come a long way. We were really lucky when we chose Bruce Isaacson as our poet laureate. Everybody who's followed his progress is just astonished. Nobody knew what a poet laureate could do for Clark County. It was a real head scratcher. Do we need a poet laureate? What's he going to do? And Bruce knew what he wanted to do and set right out to do it. He has given so many readings of his work, but he was never focused on being Bruce, the famous poet. He was focused on making poetry more important in Southern Nevada. And so he pretty much deputized a bunch of assistant poet laureates, the poet posse, and he's raised all of their profiles in a number of different ways. He's run poetry workshops here where he's attracted a really impressive group of poets who know so much about poetry. I can't believe how good they are. I had no idea we had people with this kind of talent. It's amazing the way this has unfolded. And Vogue Robinson is going to take things in different directions.
And finally, just let me read a quote from you, Patrick. You said, "A single person can take a huge amount of credit for the county taking arts and culture seriously." That's Patricia Marchese, who was one of your predecessors, someone I'm sure you probably worked with a lot. You've helped continue that giant tradition. What does a person behind you, what next do we need to do to keep the county and the city in making public arts and arts in general relevant and increasing it?
We only move forward when we're working together. I have worked with so many people, and I'm not going to start listing them because in the first place it's impossible, and I would be leaving out so many key people. But I think when we begin to get some momentum going, which is what we have now, I think that builds everyone's spirit. They see what can be done, and they throw their shoulders into it. That's happening now, and it's going to continue to happen. I grew up in Las Vegas. My father was a waiter. We moved here so that he could work in room service at the Sands Hotel in 1953. And growing up here, I was interested in avant-garde jazz and a lot of different kinds of literature, and it was difficult. We had very few record stores at the time. We had very few bookstores, and it was difficult to find the music and literature and art that you might be interested in. So it's really satisfying to see that we're not in that situation anymore. Of course, it's mainly because we're a metropolis now, but if you're interested in anything in the arts, it's here for you.
All the best to you and your family in retirement. Thank you for your work and what you've done for the county and for arts and culture.
Thank you so much, Randy.